set in stone, but you have to wonder if that's not just a little bit of a bad luck draw for GMU there.
Yeah, and that's something that's been talked about recently as well, is how sometimes seeding quite isn't fair, but at the end of the day, you have to play the best you can. And again, this is round robin. This is 3 rounds of round robin, so this match is not going to make or break, but of course they do add up, and you do want to come out out the gate blazing here. So GMU, they're looking for that. Kaisa being banned out by them. Swain also taken away. Swain has been a big thorn in the side of Columbia College, especially in the Northern Conference Finals, and they don't want to give that one up. Probably give them a little bit of a trigger warning for that nightmare that they endured against Maryville University. Olaf also banned away, so we're still in the same patch as we were last week. And for the finals, so not much has changed as far as the meta. So you're seeing these bans, status quo, seeing these bans quite often in the recent weeks.
Wondering what they're going to pull out next for George Mason, because I feel like the Kaisa, very good ban. Don't want Evan RL on that. The Olaf for Zach, it's not as huge. So Morgana coming out, going to be a pretty good takeaway. Want that off the table. Wondering what they're leaving for themselves on first pick here. We know that they've been prioritizing Skarner throughout for a while. We'll see if that's still something that they do want to pick up, as the final ban should be coming out from the side of Columbia College here. We've already got Swain and Trundle taken off the table. Karma, the last one, going to be denied to Route or Alex there.
Yeah, Karma has been a big pick in the mid lane. I've seen him actually in the support role, I should say, as well, but mostly coming out in the mid lane. And now we see Zaya locked, or at least hovered over, not quite locked in. Evan RL, a big Zaya player. Enrique also pretty adept at the Zaya, not going to shy away from that one. Going to see if they lock that one in. Still hovering, waiting to that last second, making Columbia College think here. As
I like it.
Lock that in. Yeah.
I think it's a fine takeaway, especially kind of fits pretty well with what they were taking out. We have 2 bottom lane focused bans, so we know that Zaya's not going to have any trouble with the Morgana or the Kaisa. Seems like Enrique and Alex just want a safe run in their bottom lane. It's actually a very big shining point for George Mason, is their bot lane, how well Enrique and Alex play together. So setting themselves up for success there, important. That means, of course, that Evan RL will get a Jin taken over, and the Skarner, it's something we talked about that, hey, you know, GMU likes it. Firefly going to have to find himself onto something different now.
Yeah, we're going to see what that one picks, what they decide to pick up here. They still have Sejuani open. Zach is open as well. Zach has been a big contested pick. Of course, Zach is always going to be good with throwing out that pressure, and with that Tracker's Knife being taken away a few patches ago, easy to get the slingshots out from, actually, well, now that I say that, we have a dodge possibly, or looks like someone made DC'd here.
Route.
Yeah, going to put us back on the camera here.
Sure, of course, while we do get to the bottom of all of this, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, just the mid laner client crashed, so they're going to get that fixed. It doesn't take too long. No problem. You know, same picks, same bans.
Yeah,
not allowed to change anything about your strategy or use that to open the door. Oh, you know what? We should have banned this one instead.
Not gonna happen in here. No. Now a lot of protections being put in place by Riot and of course by CSL to prevent some of those sort of shenanigans. Of course, GMU and CC know that it is a disconnect. They don't want to do this. They want to get this over with. Obviously, I'm sure their nerves are like really just struggling to cope with life right now, considering how much pressure is on both of them. This is to determine, again, round robin. There are 3 rounds of round robin, but you want to get to LA. Both these teams want to get to LA. They want to make sure that they bring prestige to their college as well. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on both these teams. And of course, we don't talk too much about the South, but we do know a lot about the North. And we know that Drake, the coach for Columbia College, and the teammates of Columbia College, they put a lot of pressure on themselves, and sometimes they're their own worst enemy. And they would love to be able to, get over that hump and show what they are really capable of.
Sure. I mean, the only time I can think as much pressure is on the line, and it's arguably a little bit more in my head if I'm just thinking about it mathematically, would be actually the semifinals. It's best of 5, right?
Right.
If you lose in the semifinals, you're out. You don't get another chance. Sorry. If you make it to the finals just on merit of being there, you have this fallback net, right? Well, Now this is the fallback net. This is do or die for your season. And obviously every game is important here. It is the round robin run of things, though. So, you lose one game. It's not the end of the world, but you do want to come out and make sure that every win counts, especially just as crazy as we see it through Riot's format. So a Rakan picked up an Ornn as well. The 2 lock-ins to conclude the first round of drafting for George Mason. Opted not to go for the jungler, actually. They normally do like to, most teams we see pick jungle support and AD in the first round. This time they're going to go for that solo laner, the Ornn.
Yeah.
And Tom Tench left open means that that's going to be a tough lane to deal with for Columbia.
I actually like the draft by GMU, getting the top and the whole bot lane, considering Rakan and Xayah together are extremely beneficial to a team, especially in that laning phase. You have Rakan having that little bit of extra boost, that leeway whenever you're paired with Xayah to give that that extra engage, that extra escape also. So very nice pickup on the bot side. I'm actually surprised that Columbia College did not take away Rakan once they saw the first pick Xayah. That is something that some people do, but they want to give Dean Tom Kinch, maybe anticipating the Rakan, and just going to be able to work from there. But yeah, Ornn, now they're not going to pick the jungler, so they do have to risk having a jungler banned out away from them and really focus on Firefly's champion pool. But Ornn is a very juicy pick in that top lane that was left open by Columbia College.
Well, with that, they take away the Victor from Columbia takes it away from George Mason. That's actually something we've seen Route play to a lot of success. He's quite good on the Victor. The Anivia as well, so it seems to be targeting that mid laner at this point. I believe, I don't know about the Anivia, but I know we at least saw him play Victor against Texas A&M in that semifinal where, memory serves, they went 3-1 and just kind of charged through to get themselves to the Southern Final. So they will be cracking down on that one just a little bit there. And actually, funnily enough here too, Jin Tom Kench was a lane that Enrique and Alex relied pretty heavily on throughout that series, so should be no strangers to them coming out. But now these two bans down on the table for either side. Camille against Stumpy, that's tried and true. This is a bread and butter champion for this guy. And Cassio against Julian. I like both options there for George Mason. This is a much more impressive draft than I thought I would see out of this side so far.
Very much.
Not to say I didn't expect something, baseline good, but this is quite good drafting.
No, it very much so is. Now, the only thing I'm actually really questioning is that Camille ban. Yeah, Missy Stumpy is fantastic, loves Camille, but at the same time, he usually runs Camille whenever a Nocturne is in the jungle with Skarner, and to be able to lock people down with the Hextech ultimatum and then the paranoia from I'm not Skarner. I'm sorry, Zach going on Nocturne. Paranoia from the Nocturne on Zach. Zach on the Nocturne. I'm going to get this right one time. But you know what I mean. Locking somebody down inside the Hextech ultimatum and then launching in there as the Nocturne, you're not able to get out. That is something they have to run quite often over the side of Columbia College. And then they have Galio in the mid lane. Now, with that being said, the mid lane has not been picked. Kane, on the other hand, is picked by Firefly, but without a Nocturne, we're not going to see a Galio. That is the tried and true Columbia College comp that we've seen numerous times this year. And if they're not going to pick the Nocturne in the jungle, they usually don't go the Camille in the top lane. They usually don't go in the Galio top lane. They fall back on that Rise just to give a little bit more of the lockdown in the on that mid side.
We'll see what it all comes down to now, because Orianna Rise, I assume that's how it's going to go. Yeah, they hadn't swapped yet, but they just traded. We're sitting there. Maybe messing with me a little bit. Rise Orianna, a lane that doesn't exactly have the most excitement coming out of the gate, but that's actually true for a lot of these compositions, just top to bottom here. When you take a look at Ornn Gnar, that's obviously very favorable to Gnar. In the early pushes, he's going to want to just shove Ornn in, continue to keep him on the back foot. At some point, Ornn with the tanky damage scaling just does kind of get a little bit out of hand. I think, honestly, if I'm looking for an early game sort of a catalyst to start popping things off, I got to point my direction to Firefly here.
I mean, very much so, and that's the whole point of Kane is to, start stacking up to be able to start stacking up to be able to transform into one of your forms. More than likely, maybe going into a tankier form, because you have Xayah and Orianna already covering quite a bit of the damage. You don't want to go into an assassination Kane whenever you're going against a Skarner or a Tom Kinch. That would just be a death sentence. So more than likely going to go into more tankiness on the Kane. Couple that with the Ornn, you have quite a bit of a little bit of a nice front line there. And of course, Kane does have that CC knockup. But yeah, early on though, he needs to stack up, be able to transform. And in order to do that, you have to attack champions, so he ganks and ganks and ganks. And he can do it before level 6. It's actually really handy to tower dive at level 6 so you can take off turret aggro. But Kane is an extremely aggressive champion in all stages of the game, a lot more so than Skarner. Skarner, he thrives at level 6. Whenever you use the Impale, put people on your Stinger, bring them back. Kane doesn't absolutely need that. It does help him out having that level 6, of course, but he thrives at all levels of the game, unless, of course, he gets shut down, and that's something that Columbia College will have to deal with and maybe looking to do as well. If they can coordinate with Julian and Missy Stumpy with Zach to collapse on him, maybe invade the jungle, and just keep him down as much as possible.
Well, counter jungling, a team effort indeed, and Columbia College, a team with very solid fundamentals when it comes to their teamwork. We'll see what they can really make happen throughout there, because like you said, it takes a fair degree of coordination there, and I believe they probably have the tools at their disposal to pull it off. I don't know if it's one of those situations where they're just going to slap Zach on Skarner, say, hey, go nuts, kid, have the best time. We'll see you in lane whenever, because we're both all expecting to just win out our lanes across the board. I feel like there's favorable lane matchups here. I feel like there's maybe less than favorable lane matchups here. But all in all, just the raw skill of Columbia College to me is something that obviously can't be overlooked. There may be 2 teams in collegiate LoL that can go blow for blow with them in lane. Maybe. And so these guys are and that's actually a bit of a problem for Columbia. I do want to back up there and say that they've not had a lot of trouble throughout their laning phase throughout the majority of the season. And so when they did get into a point where it wasn't necessarily just the snowball out of control like they were used to, not the best performance for them. They didn't really seem to have a plan in some of those games we saw last weekend, per se. But this time around, I'm expecting just the more classic, tried and true Columbia. No offense to George Mason. They have some very talented players individually, but I have a feeling that just the lane advantage is going to go Columbia's way here, and they're just going to be able to start that. So honestly, with Zach on Skarner, I don't really see him even being a factor in this game until probably. Well, no, I did qualify with until. Until probably the point post level 6 in large grouping up events where he's just going to try to flash forward, drag probably Rakan or Orianna just back into the fold, get Enrique, get Alex, and blow somebody up early to make the most of the team fight. We'll see then what, on the other side of things, the top lane can do with Ornn just to interrupt with Call of the Forge God and kind of keep things moving in the right direction, because Ion, obviously a very, very talented player, somebody we've seen a lot of actually in CSL. We'll see how that comes to fruition.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing how they perform here. Of course, Columbia College, sometimes the best discipline is losing, so you can correct your mistakes. We're going to see how that applies into here. I want to give a quick shout out to our plugs real quick before we get into the game. We're in championship loading screen. You know what I mean. Anyway, hit !point Discord in the chat to join our Discord. Get the link there. Join our community, have a voice, and play some community games, of course. Want to give a shout out to our Twitter, twitter.com/CStarLeague and twitter.com/CSLLOL. And of course, youtube.com/CStarLeague. Go check out all of our VODs. You can bet both teams have done that here going into this game, because our VODs for both the finals are over there, so you can go check those out. And of course, I want to give a shout out to Twitch, twitter.com/Twitch, facebook.com/Twitch. They've been here helping grow the collegiate scene since day one, so thank you very much. Wouldn't be here without them. And of course, also one last, facebook.com/CStarLeague. We're in game, Corvus. I'm going to go and switch over the scene, and we're going to get this going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We are here. We are ready to go. Make it all happen. Just getting the lane, just drawing the line of scrimmage there. Nothing too crazy off the rip.
Nice. You see, this is usually the time where you put wards down, try to scout out where the jungler is going to be starting. Haven't quite seen that thus far. There we go. Anyone who was complaining about the overlays, got those fixed, no problem. Gonna go and switch that over. There we go. So yeah, we are all set up here. So yeah, Firefly, he's in that bush. I don't think they're gonna try anything too cheeky. Firefly does have a lot of damage early on though, considering he is the Kayn, so don't want to 1v1 him, but you also don't want to be caught out. So very dangerous position for Firefly, but he takes a few strikes and just gets right out.
Yeah, they need to keep Firefly well protected in this early game, because he's so much of their key to victory throughout. So want to make sure that all of that jungling goes well just on his own defensive end. Now, looks like still Ion wanting to peek around on this top side jungle camp here. He just gets the crystal, actually, so they're going to know he's there. I don't think they care too much. I don't think the red buff in too much trouble. They should know that, despite the fact it's warded. They're going to get it out A-OK. And Zach will be off to the races. Same story coming out now for Firefly. Just finished taking his blue, so both are finishing on their top side jungle, moving down into the bot side, and we'll see actually how that transfers into the ganking phase of this particular game, because we have two relatively defensive bottom lanes and two that can survive the gank storm pretty well. So we'll see if they try to get the ganks popping off there or not.
Yeah, Zach actually anticipates him being invaded, so he went straight from red buff straight to blue buff, not stopping at any other camps along the way, thinking he's going to be invaded. Know that if he can take those buffs fast enough, he won't have to worry too much about that. And of course, Firefly, he's actually going the difficult route here. He's taking both the Raptors and the Wolves along with his buffs, so he's going to be pretty beefy going into once he gets into this ganking phase here. We're going to see what he does first. It's hard to gank early on the bot side, but Columbia College, they are pushed up quite a bit right now, something that Evan RL and Dean do pretty frequently in their games. They do have the Tri-Brush warded, so they'll have information if Firefly goes down there, but right now he's just going to keep farming, maybe get some vision in the river with that Rift Scuttler, because there's really not much to gank outside of that bot side.
No, and with the bot side being pushed up as well as it is, it seems like a fair opportunity. Obviously, too, it'd be nice to start getting one of those ganks off before you really get into the roaming phase. You don't want to burn a teleport this early if you are missing something or IO. And you certainly want to maybe get something off before the likes of Rise can
Here he comes.
teleport in. Yeah, he's gonna hop over here pretty soon.
Oh, he can go through the walls.
Yeah, I know, that's hop through rather, not over.
Yeah,
coming down now onto Evan RL. They want to find it. Dean does eat him right up. They flash over the knockup. And Columbia plays it pretty cleanly to get out of that one okay. Firefly might take some damage, but something tells me he's out of this one A-okay. And that's the power of the Tahm Kench. No other support gives you that much survivability and escape potential in lane.
Nah, just hop into his belly and get out. That's easy peasy. Evan RL saves his flash and his heal, something you desperately want off of a Jhin. Dean has to blow his flash, but even so, he probably could have stayed alive. He just didn't want to have to use all of his health pots during that gank last going down there. So that's going to have prompt Firefly just to go back to farming, power farming as it is, going to his Krugs. But now that he used that gank down the bot lane, Zach has actually caught up with him in the farm. Went back, picked up his boots first so he can prop that Predator, try to get in someone's face once he hits level 6. That is so crucial for a Skarner.
I don't think it's the worst waste in the world for Firefly. The only thing that's going to be off cooldown right now anyway is his Krugs, Golem. So he should be able to just mosey right on back that way, and all should be relatively well.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fine for him. He's, like I said, did get a flash, so that is something advantageous for GMU. Yeah. No worries. We see, look how aggressive Evan RL and Dean are. Again, this is kind of a trademark of them. What they'd like to do is push up as much as possible, and that way they run the potential of denying farm away from their enemy. Enrique in this case, Alex in this case, and that just ever so slightly sets Evan RL up ahead in gold, allows him to get that big item a little bit faster, as he's already went back. And look at this, there's actually already a dragon being started by Columbia College, so their macro looking good right now. They're getting that first Drake, and GMU, they don't really have any information on that at all.
No, you were talking about shoving up with purpose. Well, the farm denial, it was going okay, but Enrique was really only down just a little bit. Now, they shoved up, they found that dragon, they knew Zach was going to be instrumental in taking that one out and away, and you know, nobody from the side of George Mason really seemed to have any idea that this was going on, so it was a nice, reasonably stealthy play, and I think they just pulled the rug out from under GMU there, catching them when they least expected it. Now we might have some collision course going on in the jungle here. Both junglers do see one another. The mid laners are around as well. We'll see if this turns into anything, because Julian could potentially be in trouble. He's hit up with the shockwave. Firefly flashes over. Dean has rotated up in the meantime and is going to swallow route whole. This is bad news for the mid laner of George Mason. Does become first blood. And the action might not be over yet, as Stumpy's trying to take it to Ione in this top lane. He might be able to follow through with this one. Forces the flash. And that's going to be Stumpy taking his health bar pretty low, but getting the summoner in return.
Yeah, that was about the best way you could ask for there. Stumpy was no condition to dive. He didn't have Meganar up, so yeah, getting a flash out of the top laner Ione. Very nicely played by Missy Stumpy. Nicely played in that jungle, though, as well. Columbia College knew that the bot lane of GMU went back. They had no way to rotate up and actually protect Firefly. That was bad timing by on the side of GMU. You don't want to go invade unless all your teammate is there, all your other teammates are there. and Enrique and Alex, they both back, so there's no support from that bot side. They did have Route there, landed the shockwave, but it didn't really equate to much. Those early game shockwaves are not that powerful, so very nice nice play, nice rotation by Dean, helping out Columbia College get that that first blood on the mid lane, Julian.
And what a person to have it on, too. Julian on Rise, we've seen him absolutely become capable of just popping off throughout games, right? So, to be in a position now where he gets the first blood, the assist gold goes over to Zach, and it all happened relatively safely. Sure, he had to blow a summoner heal. Ooh. Doesn't matter. Hang on now. Zach flashing in, and look at that. Julian coming through with the ultimate. They're going to try to bail out with Call the Forge God, but it doesn't matter. Julian catches Firefly, puts him in a jar, forgets to poke any air holes, and that will be death for Kane, unfortunately, this time around.
And that's the use of Realm Warp, being able to get in, get out, or actually just get in. You don't really get out that often, but Julian, you can get out just fine whenever you kill the person you're Realm Warping into, so Julian taking advantage of that Realm Warp. New Zach had level 6, got him on the Impale, make sure he was still enough to be able to Realm Warp so he couldn't get out because Firefly is on Kane. Of course, he can go through the walls, can get out. He's pretty slippery as a jungler, as any jungler goes, but yeah, very nice coordination by Columbia College, being able to keep him down, able to pick that one up. So it's going to keep Firefly down a little bit there. That's what we were talking about. You want to keep he's the big snowball factor. Of course, Enrique is too. Enrique, he just wants to farm. He's fine right now. But Firefly, he wants kills. Denying him those kills and actually just giving him, taking out his own life. That's going to be huge coming into this mid game for CC, because now they don't have to worry about any sort of assassination coming out. I think Evan Ara will be able to survive it, especially with Dean at his side.
Yeah, the Tom Kench really does negate a whole hell of a lot of that worry there for themselves. Firefly not in the best of positions to get snowballing and really make any moves, especially look at the way they've warded up here on this bottom side for Columbia College. Yeah, that's just going to diffuse. Normally that would be an engage. This time around, Dean says sorry. Not the case. And Julian back in the mid lane, ready to just slam down onto Route. So things looking pretty good across the board here for the likes of Columbia College. George Mason really need to find a foothold in this game as they're just getting shoved out in just about every capacity here. Look at how much damage Julian can do to Route.
They are keeping up in farm, though, which is good for them if they can get into the mid game without giving up too many kills, because they have a huge team fight reliance, or team fight comp right now with Ornn and Orianna, and I mentioned Enrique and Alex as well. A lot to offer in team fights. Kane is a little bit of the wild card there, but he can still dish out damage. But GMU, they need to not give up kills in these, or give up deaths, I should say, in this laning phase, because they want to be as strong as possible for these team fights, because that's where their strength is right now, and something at Columbia College. Hold on.
Boy.
I'll talk about that.
Curtain call coming out. Yeah, this is
tower dive.
Teleport is here. Julian not even needing the realm work means Evan RL finds his first kill. Enrique left all alone in a cool
the
world.
patience.
The teleport was not there from Io, did not finish channeling, and that's the right call, because Stumpy was able to just flop to the back line, get a nice shove back. And Enrique, dying with flash up, knew it was a pretty hopeless attempt. This could be tower for Columbia.
Yeah, great patience by Missy Stumpy. Waited for Enrique's ultimate. I think Enrique would have died anyways. He did have a flash up though, but waited for him to come down out of his ultimate where he's untargetable, and then Missy Stumpy used his ultimate, narred him back into the enemy team, into Columbia College. Very nice patience, nice tower dive, nice turret aggro, also rotated by Columbia College. They get them the first turret of the game, getting that first turret bonus gold as well. Drake is about up as well, so just all around great timing, great sense of macro pressure from Columbia College, because now they're going to go rotate to this Drake, more than likely switch up their lanes, go from top to bottom, of course, like they do, and just do it all again.
Yeah, very textbook Columbia play here. Only 11 minutes into the game, they have made the standard 4/5 man bot gank happen. They got the tower out of it. They've secured themselves a pretty decent gold lead, about 3K to their names, and with a lot of priority around this Dragon and Rift Herald, actually. We'll see what they decide to prioritize here. It's another Ocean Drake, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. Obviously, it's nothing you ever want to give over to an enemy team, especially one with an Ornn on it. But whatever the case, I feel like after they reset their lanes here, they're going to be in great shape. They're already just sieging across the top tower. There's no one there to defend that top tower for the side of George Mason, so that thing, another wave, should do the trick on it, honestly. And I don't think George Mason were really prepared for this.
GMU may be trying to prepare themselves for the bot side, though. They may be looking to tower dive onto Julian as we see Firefly. He's going to be coming over.
Well, it is a risk, but we'll see if they can make it happen. He's standing on the realm wall. They actually force the flash out, the knock up, and Julian is for sure dead here. Enrique almost goes down, but not quite the case. Now, meantime, call the Forge Gun, the Shockwave, bring back Dean. They're going to try to find him. He has the shield. Not maybe he's necessarily the best target, and he does have to flash out to avoid being devoured there, so... Ion burning a lot to get in this fight, but it will buy some time. Evan RL on the sidelines, though, maybe looking to find that time and take it right back. We'll see if he can get out of this one okay, actually. They do want to get in onto him. He's very low. Zach trying to come in. That's a tower down in the meantime. They do find with the Skarner suppression, and that means Route will go down. So they trade a tower, but they already took one in the top side, so Columbia is still maintaining a lead there. They find a kill. And Route does go down for the second time in this game. The mid lane tower going to be the next one to fall for sure here. And Columbia College are really starting to turn up the heat.
Yeah, very much so. You even have Evan RL flanking from on the side there. He's an ADC. That's not normally what you see, and he actually almost got caught, but just a big distraction. And yeah, GMU, they got that one turret, and that's something they desperately need on the bot side, but CC, they got 2 turrets. They got the top and mid, and now they're going to get Drake. So the macro game, again, going over in their favor, and they're getting the kills. This is going very well for Columbia College. Maybe, again, they need to get their head a little bit on the, clear out their head, I should say. Especially put those last 2 weeks behind them. Focus on getting to LA, because that's what they're playing for here. GMU, their first obstacle, they're looking very good right now.
When you say 2 weeks, really less than that, honestly.
Yeah,
it was Thursday, last Thursday. So about 10 days ago, 9 days ago, that everything went topsy-turvy for the likes of the Columbia Cougars. Right now, their plan is if none of that ever happened, only 1 death, and it was a little bit of a goose onto Julian there. And might be trying to recreate that here. He is in the top side, but they do decide. Vision around this Rift Herald, obviously the more important of these objectives. Something you definitely don't want to give up because they're already pretty far behind. All their outer turrets are down. And so Rift Herald being taken in the inner turret stage, or God forbid the base turret stage, becomes something that's very much avoidable and something you want to avoid if you are George Mason. So we'll see how they can manage that.
As we say that, though, the Rift Herald is being contested by Columbia College, and that would just add to their macro game, of course, but also just add to their pressure they're putting on George Mason. So they can pop that.
Yeah, they've got this in spades. Yeah, it's already half health. There's nobody around. The teleport actually coming through, however.
They're going to contest it.
Iron wants to come in. Call the Forge got his down. Rift Herald seems to be following along. He's suppressed, and so he does not get to knock it back, and that will mean Ion going down. Julian takes that one out and away. Dean now trying to get him out of this one in one piece, but look at the shockwave. It's coming through. Julian gonna die. George Mason actually turned this one around okay. Nar was not there. Stumpy still pushing the bottom lane. This actually gives some Rift Herald priority per chance to the side of George Mason, but they don't opt to take it. They just wanted to defend, and that's probably not the best, just going 1-for-1 in this situation when Stumpy's still on the bot side, going to be able to hammer away at your tower.
And that's the issue you constantly have to worry about. If you give up one objective, or go to contest one objective, are you giving up something else? Misty, he just took down this inner bot turret. That gives him so much map control on that bot side, especially around that Drake, which they've already had control around, so huge props to Columbia College once again. George Mason, I admire their effort there. They did try their best to try to, contest something, but it just wasn't happening. They successfully drove off CC from the Rift Herald, but at the same time, they also lost their bot turret. Ion, he teleported that up to that top side. I don't know if he actually needed to do that because all George Mason really needed to do was pressure, but they were a little bit too afraid of CC turning around, fighting on them, so they wanted their full force of 5 up there. And again, mission accomplished. They got it stopped, but also they lost the bot inner turret. So it's a big decision game that Columbia College is making George Mason play, and it's something that they're always going to lose at.
Yeah, no, very much. When you get caught up playing the game of Columbia, very few people can ever beat them at it, especially when playing from behind. It's the early leads that we've seen transition traditionally into wins over CC here, but they'll just get the Rift Herald. They're going to pop that one right over onto Zach. I assume they're going to run right down the mid lane with this one. Not as much of a, I would say, incentive to release it into a top side lane there, especially not the bot lane at this point. Call the Forge God coming down. Onto Evan RL, finds both. There's going to knock it up. He does not have time to eat him, and Rout gets a kill there. Meanwhile, Dean in a little bit of trouble. I don't think he's going to be able to get out of this one, even with the shield, but they decide not to dive. Anyway, as there are no minions, and Zach has ultimate there, so it's a good call to back off here. They find one, but can they turn it into more? Because, surprise, surprise, history repeating itself. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, keep an eye on Stumpy.
Yeah, he's still pushing. He doesn't have a banner command, so he would be pushing a little bit faster. As we did see, the cannon minions did get buffed, so banner command is actually a big pick right now in this meta. But yeah, a nice pickup onto Julian. That's about all you can ask for. Again, though, George Mason, they don't get anything besides a kill. They need objectives. They need towers really bad. 1-4 right now in Columbia College's favor. They are running away with this game. It's before 20 minutes. They still have the Rift Herald to use as well. So there's a lot of power to be had by Columbia College that haven't quite exercised all the way. And once they do, George Mason, they may just have to, you know, plan for game number 2. Remember, this is a best of 3, so they have a game number 2 here to work with and to plan out their draft a little bit better. But again, they still have a little bit of a chance in game number 1, but it's not looking great for them.
You know, it really doesn't look great, and that's surprising when you just take a look at the paper here, because it's only a 4K gold lead for Columbia. I mean, there are kills onto some of the necessary members of George Mason, but it's just the way that Columbia has been dragging the objective game around, and especially I want to say these 4 towers that have made all the difference in the world here. Columbia continuing to open up the map for themselves to make more and more rotations therein. Now with no neutral objectives at this point, maybe just a blue buff they might want to fight over. I expect to see them reset some lands, potentially call in that Rift Herald. In 30 seconds, we have another Ocean Drake coming up. That's not the biggest deal in the world for a team that already has 2 and doesn't look to be pushing this to late anyway. I mean, they'd like it, they'll take it. But I see towers being the much more prevalent objective for this team.
Yeah, very much so. They don't need the Drake, like you said. That third Ocean Drake is great to have in these long, drawn team fights, but it's not really happening for George Mason, and Columbia College knows this, so they're going to get it just for good measure because they can. It's just another objective, and it's always good to practice for that sort of thing, but they don't absolutely need it at this point. Their eyes are going to be set, yeah, on the towers and the Baron, which is going to be coming up in 50 seconds. They know if they go get that Drake, they have plenty of time to take that before the Baron comes up, but they're actually just going to probably prepare for this Baron. They're going to get their control wards, I should say, and just establish a lot of vision around here. Make sure George Mason has no choice but to back off or contest and lose a fight if they go for that Baron.
It's a game Columbia plays very well, and something that George Mason have been falling into the trap of. We'll see if they become wise or if this is really no different. Now GMU trying to get themselves a Consolation Dragon actually back. This is the right time to do it. 15 seconds before the Baron spawns, before you can funnel yourself into that. Do they, don't they trap? They get the Baron. Call of the Forge God comes down. Curtain call. Columbia wants to meet him at the pit. They want to find it. There's a shockwave to try to pull back, but it is bad news for Alex. She's going to go down to this one. Evan RL finding that kill. A second one for him as well as Firefly taken down. Now Enrique flashing out of this one, trying to stay alive. Julian hot on the hunt. Stumpy with the slowdown of the rock. Does the no! The Gnar does not connect, and Enrique might just be out of this one. No, a tongue lash from Dean seals the deal on that one. And only the solo laners out in one piece. Route actually took an interesting route out of that one as well, backing in the bottom side jungle of Columbia. Rift Herald popped for this one, and they're going to head straight to Baron while Shelly does all the distracting in the world.
We've actually seen that before, where they do pop the Rift Herald, and they just they have to take, GMU has to take the time to be able to take it out. Meanwhile, the actual Baron is going down, so very nice play by Columbia College. They take the fight, they distract in the mid lane. They're not going to get a turret out of Shelly, but they are going to get the Baron, which is going to equate to turrets, obviously, coming up here. Once again, nice play by Columbia College. They're looking great. They did give up that dragon, but that was all a sort of a distraction. Misty Stumpy, by the way, on the backside of that, still did not use his teleport. He still has his teleport, so that is something that needs to be looked at pretty soon, because he's going to go to that top lane and start split pushing. It's the only outer turret left on the side lanes. More than likely going to be able to pick that one up pretty soon as he picks up the... actually, no, he's going to give that one over to Evan RL. That's probably best anyways. Evan RL 4-1-4 right now, by the way. Doing very well for himself.
Yeah, Essence Reaver, Rapid Fire Cannon, has the BF Sword to boot. It's a tall order trying to kill Evan at this point, as he is actually the most farmed member of this game as well, only being slightly trailed by Route there on the side of George Mason. You talked about the teleport coming out from Stumpy. The teleport actually not coming out from Stumpy, rather, and just being something that he's held onto and held onto and held onto throughout. That has got to be such a great hallmark of Colombia's macro prowess. Just in that they have it available, they haven't needed it, and it's been this consistent threat that's just looming over the heads of George Mason. Now, really coming online with the split push. They're trying to get 2 members to take him on out of this one. Call the Forge God going to be used for this. They're going to be able to likely get the kill here. The Shockwave to secure it, but at what cost? Because now look at this. Same trick, different player. Julian in the bot lane making the most of this. They wanted the 1-3-1. The wave is primed up. They're just going to turn it into a 4-man siege from Colombia. And this is bad news for the inhibitor now of George Mason.
Yeah, you can do a trick like that when you have Baron. Because the minions are going to be a lot harder to clear. You can do that Realm Warp coming in. Actually, they're going to take him out.
Yeah, they want to maybe find the fight. Actually, they do look to get away.
Yeah.
They found the inhibitor. There was nothing else for them to gain by sticking around. So smart play by Columbia College not to take the needless 4v5. They're instead just going to reset. I have a feeling we see Stumpy's teleport come out here in the next 5 seconds.
I wouldn't doubt it. They have a wave pushing it on the top side. He doesn't have Banner, and he doesn't have Baron either, but there's still a lot to work with now. If he uses his teleport now, it wouldn't be very advantageous. He'd be by himself. He'd just get picked off again. So he's going to actually hold on to that one until his teammates get back, and maybe look to see, maybe wait for that bot lane to shove in, make GMU have to force themselves to go down and answer it, and that'll give him a little bit less pressure on that top side that he has to deal with when he starts split pushing.
Pressure is the name of the game at this point. I mean, they really want to be able to find a way to weather the storm for George Mason, and with an inhibitor down in that bottom lane, that is not off to a good start, especially Baron having a few more crucial waves in their pocket here, at least 2 by the looks of it, as we're only about a quarter remaining on Baron. So, should be able to prime that out. That could potentially turn into 2 towers for them, as George Mason really haven't found a great way to break the siege of Colombia just yet.
It's kind of, it's very difficult for them at this point. I don't think they're going to be able to at this point. They are just looking to stand their ground as much as possible once they get back into these inhibitor turrets. And if that fails, of course, look on to game number 2, figure out what you did, just talk about what you did and get that figured out in the drafting phase for game number 2, because games can be made or broken in drafting phase, and that's something that I don't know if the Kayn, I don't agree with this Kayn at all. A lot of teams, they'd like to, I've seen teams run this aggressive jungler in high competitive play, and honestly it just doesn't work out that much. It's great in solo queue because it's a little less predictable, and you can rely on just kind of solo carrying a little bit, but in competitive play, big team game, and Kayn doesn't offer that much. We have Realm Warp coming in.
Yeah, they want to find her. That is the backline. They're going to get in on Alex. She does go down here now in the meantime. Call of the Force God trying to come out. How many members can they knock up? It's a nice flash by Julian, and the Shockwave actually brings Zach back into things. He's eaten up by Dean at a crucial time, and the tower goes down. So Columbia weathering this storm impressively means Evan will be able to just fire back into that pit. Not going to find much. Alex, the only casualty thus far, and Columbia actually looking like they want to stick around. Stumpy can back because
they have 2 Ocean Drakes.
Yeah, that is true, actually, with the Ocean Drake. The sustainability, all the options in the world. That's the teleport coming back through. Route in some trouble. Not found by Evan. But one more shot will do it. And there's the shutdown coming now. Ione trying to get out of this one. Enrique getting the return kill onto Evan, but barely does die himself. So tower's still a priority for the likes of Columbia College, but they have no minions to help them secure it. And so we talked about weathering the storm. GMU really dug in. They lost 3 in that entire engage. Only Firefly. And actually, Alex died earlier, so they lost 4 throughout. So Firefly, the only survivor of that. And now, once the wave does return, the second inhibitor is going to be falling. Columbia potentially wanting to reset after this one. And man, oh man, George Mason looking like they're on life support at this point.
Yeah.
12k gold deficit. All sorts of problems as their 2 inhibitors are down. And Baron's 90 seconds away.
Very much. Yeah, that's actually something that it's not as noticeable because Columbia College is so far up, but when they were diving into that inner mid lane turret, that was actually a really bad team fight for Columbia College, but they're so far ahead that it didn't really matter too much. Stumpy was trying to zone out the entirety of GMU, and he was actually getting destroyed. GMU are actually taking advantage of being underneath the tower and the poor positioning from Columbia College, but again, CC, they're just so far up. Now that's something that they can't do. If George Mason were, they were a little bit more even, that's something that Columbia College cannot do. They even got cocky underneath that inhibitor turret. They wanted to assure that they could take it, but they used a lot of resources to take it, and they also gave up a couple of their lives for it as well, when they could have just backed and re-engaged onto that mid side or that mid lane. So Columbia College, they're getting a little bit cocky. We see maybe a payoff this time.
Down. Call the Forge got it. It's only going to get Zach, but that's a huge wave to be able to pull off. Now Firefly getting out of that one actually does not want to find it. They're trying to hold off on Stumpy. They do get the kill. And George Mason are digging in at this point in their composition. It's a nice shockwave to come through. Alex, what can you do here? Maybe potentially Julian is going to be eaten up by Dean, and that's a great time to break the momentum of Columbia, but still have to worry about the base, still have to police those minions because they are just going to keep moving on through. If they don't take care of these bot lane minions, that would have been the inhibitor going down. So Ione going to be on detail for that. Does have the teleport. The rest of his team, we'll see how they do respond further out. Baron is now up. Zach is dead for another 5 seconds. I don't think George Mason can make anything happen here, but we'll see.
Gonna try.
Yeah, I admire the effort. I really do. The teleport's coming down. They want the Baron. They're starting it up. It's actually falling reasonably fast. Julian should be in realm warping position in just a second here. They are going to be able to pick through this. Is there a steal on the table, perchance? George Mason are giving everything they've got to this one as route is taken off of the table in the meantime. Call of the Forge not going to buy time. Blue team does get the Baron. Alex, can you make something happen here? Evan RL finds the first kill. The second one going down. Julian finding a double throughout. Ione in some trouble now, and that's the triple kill coming down. Firefly, the last surviving member, will sacrifice his life as well. They got themselves the Baron, but it didn't matter. 3 members of Columbia running down now to join Dean and Evan as they are going to take out game number 1 in 29 minutes and cement themselves 1-0 in this best of 3 over George Mason, who just would not go down without a fight.
No, that actually really breaks my heart because Columbia College, they were making missteps that GMU were actually taking advantage of. They were doing great in those late game team fights because Columbia College, they started getting really cocky. And then GMU, one false move, they wanted to force that Baron. You can't force that Baron, especially when you're that far behind. And at least even 3 members of Columbia College up around that pit. Yeah, you take away Zach, but you're just going to get destroyed as you take out that Baron. I was actually really stoked to see George Mason. Again, they were taking advantage. Columbia College, they had a terrible engage there. Zach went straight in, just got destroyed. But and then more people got destroyed. Mississippi on the back lines also got taken down. George Mason were doing great. They were protecting Enrique. They weren't picking the fight. They actually took advantage and counter engaged. Very nice play by them. But then they just wanted to force the Baron, and that's you can't do that when you're that far behind. Columbia College, I mean, Evan RL can keep you off them probably by himself almost.
Well, it is Columbia College by many counts the favorite of the entire play-ins before the groups were drawn. It's a tough loss to swallow as the sun does set on game number 1, but again, it is a best of 3, and even if this doesn't go the way of George Mason, it's still the best 2 out of the group, so they could potentially look to find more over their Big Ten and Peach Belt counterparts. They have no Eastern or Western teams to worry about throughout, so that is the silver lining to all of this. We'll see what George Mason can do to bounce back. They did lose with about 12K gold in their pockets. Going to try to shore that up. They had a good draft game number 1. We're hoping for a better draft game number 2. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give them some time to plan that one on through to make sure they have all their ducks in a row for the rest of this series. So that does mean, of course, we'll be kicking it over to a short break. And when we get back, it'll be game number 2, Columbia College and George Mason. Please don't go anywhere. Well, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, ready to get into game number 2 between Columbia College and George Mason University. CC going up 1-0 on the series thus far. George Mason looking to make some tough revisions.
Yeah, they have a lot to think about. Again, their team fight was looking solid in that ending part, and it was more like they were able to take advantage of Columbia College's mistakes, which they got pretty cocky going on. So going into that, I guess late game, if you want to call it that, because it ended up like 28 minutes. There really was technically no late game, but late game for that game, GMU, they were taking advantage of the mistakes Columbia College made. Now it's at the point where going into game number 2, CC may rethink that, and it's at this point where GMU, they need to rethink their draft, because at Kane, I'm not really keen on that.
Well, it's do or die in this series at this point. We've seen best of 5s throughout the playoffs. This time, back to the regular season Swiss format, the best of 3, something that these teams familiar with, but going back to after having the maybe grace period of the best of 5, something that could be tough for these guys.
Yeah, it is a little bit of pressure. A lot of the teams actually like best of 5s. They think that there's more to be able to tell on that because of the adaptation from game 1 to game 2 to game 3 and so on. Best of 3 though, you're in, you're out. And for Columbia College, I mean, they must enjoy that because they're up 1 right now. So sometimes that can be playing to an advantage. And, you know, whenever you're in goal, it's not really the team in front of you, which I know Columbia College, obviously, they want to play, they have to play George Mason. That, you know, they want to give respect to them. But their end goal is obviously to get to LA. They want retribution. They want to show that they have not tilted, they can come back, and that there's still a power in the North to be reckoned with.
Well, they need to prove it now throughout the play-ins. Here's the time to kind of hone in on those mistakes, figure out what all went wrong, and then bring it back to a point of, you know, zen throughout the team. Make sure that they can come through, play their game, play it better than everybody else, and get to that riot stage calm, cool, and collected, because this is where they need to gain that composure.
Yeah, I mean, they were playing so well early on in the season. When the Swiss format happened, they even beat Maryville University, which you could, you know, contest and say that, you know, it wasn't the Maryville University roster they were used to. But at the same time, Columbia College, even the subs of Maryville, they're individually good, and they've had roster swaps. They're individually good. They should not have been stomped that hard. So Columbia College, I feel like they had a fire that has just sort of dimmed a little bit, that hasn't had a reason to be ignited. And I'm really hoping that the last, like you said, not even really 2 weeks, more like 10 days, has really reignited that fire, and that we're seeing that possibly here. Because remember, even in the Midwest Campus Clash, they took 1 game off of core Maryville. So the potential is there, and I'd like to see that show up in LA.
For sure. And I mean, you take a look at the draft that they had coming through in that game as well, the one they won, it was phenomenal. Probably the best drafting I've ever seen out of Columbia, where they fooled Maryville into banning Trundle for them. It was just next level mind games.
Yeah.
So we'll see if we can see a little bit more of that team and a little less of the, hey, we're just going to grab Nocturne, Galio, and, run at it. Well, the ban clock does look to expire there. No, is Swain. Hey, just out of the last second. Stumpy really making a meal out of that one for himself.
They do take that Swain off them again. They do have nightmares of Swain being picked against them. Again, they're showing respect to GMU's mid laner Route. They don't want Route to have that one because, I mean, I want to say we've even seen Route play Swain. I don't remember off the top of my head. I remember seeing in the southern one of the southern matches, Swain was picked. Obviously, Swain overall doesn't matter. A big mid laner, whoever is going to be using it. Route, of course, he's here for a reason. He's second runner-up in the Southern Conference. He's
right,
very talented player, so they're going to take that one away, along with Victor. So they are focusing on Route, giving him a little bit of respect.
I think it's the same that they opted for last time around. Band's not changing up too much. Morgana as well, so if George Mason goes for an Olaf, that would absolutely complete the same run of bans that they had on their side. Meanwhile, we'll see what they can do to target out George Mason. A little bit heavy here. Yeah, Victor banned last game, but it was in the second round, I believe. So they're leaving something up on the table. Trundle taken out and away. They want that one gone. So now GMU needs to take off the table the thing they're most worried about Columbia first picking.
Could be Camille, could be Olaf, could be Galio. There's a lot really to work with here that Columbia College have shown that they play. So it's kind of a lot of head games going on for George Mason right now. I have to wonder what they're going to be able to pick, because this is the advantage of having blue side. So you get that first pick. They're going to take away Olaf, make sure Zach doesn't have that one. But now that does leave up Camille, which can give them Nocturne Galio mid lane if Columbia College want to run that. We're going to see what Misty picks here first, because that determines a lot.
Really the case. Yeah, they need to solidify the composition off just the first pick. Sometimes it does get that far out and advance. Will the Xayah hover? Be no surprises there. They want to deny that one to Enrique. They kept bans the same for George Mason, so they're obviously worried about those 3 champions in particular. We'll see what now having the Xayah on the other side of the rift means for how they're going to pick here in the second round, because, you know, traditionally we're so used to seeing AD, support, and jungle. This time maybe they want the Skarner for themselves. Red side Skarner going to be looking like the lock-in here.
Yeah, it looks like they are going to lock that one. And Xayah, good pick for Evan RL. He's actually adept at many ADCs, but Xayah was his main pick throughout the Swiss brackets, the Swiss format version of this Collegiate League of Legends tournament from Riot. He was incredible. He had the highest KDA in the north with Xayah, so and highest gold per minute. But we're gonna do a little flip flopping here. So we see Jin being hovered over, locked in. That's gonna go to Enrique instead of Evan RL this time. And again, like you said, Skarner gonna go in that jungle. So they have a game plan already showing on the side of George Mason. Meanwhile, there's a lot of the things that Columbia College works with. I haven't seen Jarvan in the jungle for Zach in quite a while. Like I said, he's been kind of playing playing Zach, Sejuani, Skarner, Olaf, Nocturne. Sejuani would be more of the comfort pick that I've seen and I'm used to here, and that's what they're going to lock in.
Jarvan, Sejuani, you know, it's pretty early on into the season kind of picks here, so we'll be reverting to that one, but still so strong and still something that we know that Zach is going to be able to come and just absolutely pop off with. So we'll see if they don't pick themselves up a support to go down there with Evan RL. And it looks like the Rakan. So I wonder, does this leave open the Tom Kench? Do they opt to full swing over in the lane phase? We know it's something Jin Tom Kench that Enrique and Alex do play, and they're not giving away too much of their composition. So, hey,
look at that.
Look at it. They do opt for it, and that's going to be a pretty big takeaway, all things considered here.
Yeah, and of course we saw that last game. Tom Kench going to be able to save you, especially with those Sejuani ults coming in, or even Rakan going in there. They're going to take away the Galio. Give that take away some of that mid lane pressure. Again, Julian does play a lot of Galio in the mid lane to coordinate ganks with Zach. Usually when he's Nocturne, but you know Julian does well on Galio no matter, and you can kind of use Hero's Entrance no matter who the jungler is. So gonna take that one away. But that is something that Columbia College also likes to have, is some sort of long range engage or presence, whether it be the package from Corki, which we've seen Julian use a lot, Hero's Entrance, or even Realm War we saw last game. So going to take a lot of that off the table here now that Nocturne is not going to be picked.
Yeah, it's really actually a bit of a fault in Columbia's core composition draft, because it's like a Jenga tower. You just pull out the right piece and the whole idea kind of caves in on itself. So just by denying the Galio, they've broken so many other picks that they know they don't have to worry about. The Nocturne, not obviously with Sejuani already picked, right. Nocturne's not going to be a thing, but by taking out the Galio, this also means the Camille, not something you're likely to see. And so it adds a lot of just drafting potential to the table there.
It could just take it to top lane anyways. I mean, just rely on his individual mechanics.
Yeah, so it's not a bad pickup here, and we definitely saw Stumpy having a favorable run
that's more
over Ione, but the Gangplank going to fit a lot better with just what they're looking to accomplish here. They've already got the makings of some really good pick potential and siege potential coming out of the side of Columbia. The Cannon Barrage is just going to add so much to that. And with Julian ending up on that rise again, this is going to be a pretty vicious composition for Columbia.
Yeah, they have, of course, more map pressure overall with the Cannon Barrage from Gangplank's, Evan RL's Gangplank. I'm sorry, not Evan RL, Misty Stumpy's Gangplank, which he's very adept at Gangplank. One of his favorite top lane champions, outside of Camille, of course. And then Rise going to be back on Julian with that more of that kind of quasi map, whole map pressure. Of course, whenever you're mid lane, you can use that Realm War pretty easily, get from lane to lane. But we do have a Vladimir in the mid lane going against the Rise, so that is going to be interesting. Not sure how I feel about it. Overall, I do like the team comp of George Mason, but they lack a lot of CC in that mid lane. Probably going to look at Firefly and Ione to make up for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be the engaged potential is you're basically funneling so much onto Firefly's Skarner there. And you're saying very clear message, hey, look, we're not looking to get too aggressive before level 6. And after that, we're really going to want to group up, find the fights. I think the Tom Kench is going to add a lot to this one. Vladimir as well for route. A better draft this time for George Mason. That said, Colombia looked so strong in that first game. And this time, these are champions that they're every bit as comfortable on. Zaya for Evan RL is absolutely ferocious. Gangplank for Misty Stumpy is something that I would, wager he likes a lot more than the likes of that Gnar, and he feels a lot more comfortable on into the Ornn. So this time around, the adaptations for Colombia are there as well. We'll see if what George Mason has done is enough, because I like where the team fight idea goes, but I don't know if it's just going to be what can seal the deal.
I mean, they essentially just took Columbia Colleges to game 1 comp and put Vladimir instead of Rise in the mid lane. So yeah, that is interesting. And obviously you've seen it work before. You saw it work in game number 1.
Tried and true.
Yeah, very much so. So they're going to rely on these picks, especially from Skarner. That is one of the benefits of Vladimir, is that while you don't have any CC besides your Sanguine Pool being able to slow people, you do have a lot of damage. You are a nuke, and one that can sustain himself in that mid lane. So that's what Route is going to go for here. He's been able, whenever they get these picks, absolutely destroy whoever he picks up here. And that is going to be, of course, on the coordination of George Mason. And again, once again, we've seen this comp work, so it's going to be interesting. But Columbia College are going to be going back on time, kind of an old school comp for them, with Misty Stumpy in the top lane with Gangplank and bot lane bot lane Azaya Rakan. We've seen that so much, especially early college LoL, Columbia College. Again, going back to their roots, maybe that's what they've decided to do. Try to work on their base and then push forward with something new. As again, they're just kind of reshaping themselves, reinvigorating themselves at Columbia College.
Yeah, and like we mentioned before, now is the time that they can really look to do some of that. So it's good to see them experiment around a little bit with some older stuff. It's good to see them still trying the newer stuff and drafting just a composition to browbeat George Mason's face in the first game. I'm excited to see, honestly, Sejuani in action. I think Zach on this, it's kind of been one of his seasonal highlights. Yeah. So with this guy in particular, that's something I do want to pay attention to. But ladies and gentlemen, before we go too heavily down into the game dissection, we do have a couple of quick little plugs, announcements to make, things of the like here. If you are new to CSL, you want to get your school a little bit more involved for next year, Discord is a great way to keep up with everything we're doing there. You can type !Discord in the chat just to stay in the loop. Come find us for some community games. The fun at CSL doesn't stop with the season, so keep looking through for opportunities there. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. That's twitter.com/CStarLeague or CSLLOL if you just want the league content. Facebook.com/CStarLeague. Keep up with all the events we're doing. I want to give a huge shout out to Twitch. Say, as always, nothing but gratitude for the largest streaming platform in all of competitive gaming to support our esports endeavors. From events like PAX East and West, what the CSL does we wouldn't be what we are today without their continued help and support. So look for cool ways to get involved with them. Twitter.com/Twitch, Facebook.com/Twitch, Twitch.tv. It's likely where you are right now, unless you're watching this on YouTube, which means that you would have gone to youtube.com/user/CStarLeague and seen all of our lovely VODs across all of our lovely esports that we do participate in. So that is all, where you can keep up with everything. Lastly, want to give a huge shout out to Juice Battery. You ever been playing a game, getting to that last critical moment, and then your controller batteries die? Well, you can avoid that with Juice Battery. 6 times the life of your standard battery, and they recharge incredibly fast. They stay charged so you can stay in the game. JuiceBattery.com to learn more. And lastly, I'll give ourselves a plug here. If you want to follow us on Twitter, the Casters, that is !Casters in the Twitch chat. You'll get our lovely links there. But with that, Beckes, we are in the game.
We are. Game number 2, best of 3, George Mason. They are down. They need to win this one to be able to come back. And Columbia College, if they win this one, they could just cement themselves one step closer to getting to LA. Now, let's reemphasize here. Round robin, 3 rounds of round robin. This is not do or die for George Mason, but this is one step forward or one step backwards. And if you take too many steps backwards, you fall off the wagon, the mountain, whatever this really is. But regardless, you're not going to LA.
It's a wagon on a mountain. Yeah. So if you fall off the wagon, you tumble down the mountain.
Yeah, very much so. Regardless, you're not going to be on the ride to LA. That's the big point. That's where George Mason wants to go, to be able to, once again, there's a lot of pride on the line here. They want to go to LA to cement that, the South has is a regional power. It's something that a lot of people overlook, and they just look at the North, they look at the West, sometimes the East, depending on who's playing during that year. But the South has been generally overlooked, and they would love to change that. Texas A&M, they are not in this for the first time, or at least not in the running to go to LA of any sort, in any form for the first time in I don't know how long. So this is the time. George Mason, UT Dallas, this is the time for them to really shine and bring their region to the forefront.
Well, we'll see what they do with that opportunity here, because going up against Columbia, it's a tall order, but something that we hope they can rise to the occasion of. We always are in the interest of competitive matches, first and foremost. Quick little background on that pause. It was just a peripheral issue, so they did fix that. Nothing crazy. Columbia want to get a 5-man invade. This is why you draw the line of scrimmage. Sure, it seems boring sometimes, but they've spotted out in full force what Columbia is doing. This is actually going to open up a path on the top side for Ion and Firefly to go drop a ward on blue. They don't know it yet, and they don't actually seem to be that invested. So it should just be the vision war, the info war, getting won now by the side of Columbia College.
Yeah, and of course they do get that a little bit of extra gold for that shrine. Of course, GMU, they get the top side, but that actually does relieve a little bit of pressure. If Zach wants to go on to the Dragon side to get the Rift Scuttler, that means that they won't have to worry too much about Firefly having that big shrine to give him some buff whenever he starts fighting Zach. If he wants to go down there and contest, that means that Zach has a little bit more opportunity to establish vision on the bot side river going into his bot lane.
I like what we just saw there from Stumpy, taking the crystal back, just holding off Firefly a little bit, just letting them know kind of what's up, because there's no real consequence to coming to lane a little late when you have a really good idea, because of that early ward, that Ion is going to be helping to leash Firefly. So, well played there on the hands of Stumpy. You'll see what they can really turn. I mean, it's obviously not going to be, the crystal's already back in the hands of Firefly, so
right, yeah,
not the biggest deal in the world, but it's that small sense of the little things that Columbia do that really set them apart and make them a great team. That's just a good example to harp on so early.
Yeah, every little advantage helps, and of course, again, it does give gold, so that is something that they're looking at. Every little bit of gold helps. It's not a huge issue, but early game, and what else are you gonna do? You're gonna stand there, like you said, go to lane, and you're not really gonna be doing much. You can still get the lane, farm the minions. Might as well have some extra gold going in. That's exactly what we just saw. So again, very nicely played. Not gonna establish too much of the connection, as we already see Firefly in that bot side river getting the Rift Scuttler.
So much more important this time around, right?
Yeah.
It's an Infernal Drake on the line. It's not this 3 Ocean. And if either of these teams are looking to make quick work of their opponents, this is the way to do it. We'll see. They might want to come in for this one. Firefly spotted out by the ward. Not going to be too big of a deal, as Julian swaps out his Ignite for a teleport at this point. Says, hey, you know what, that's not anything I'm too worried about.
Yeah, route.
The early kill on the route, yeah, not likely, sorry.
Right, yeah, no, you're exactly right. We have a gank in the top lane, though.
Yeah, Ion going to be forced to flash here. He should be able to get out of this one okay all the same. If they want to dive, it's risky here. Stumpy decides to try it, and that's it. I said it was risky. He had to flash out of that one. And so really not the biggest advantage in the world for Stumpy anymore, because it's going to be the back for Ion. If Stumpy opts to back, he can stick around and try to sustain some of that through. But either way, it's flash for flash at this point. Route potentially going to die here.
Julian wishes he had that Ignite now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we talked about the survivability of Route. Not this time around. Does have to back. And so that's 2 critical bases called out for George Mason. In the meantime, CC still laying down the hurt in the bot side.
That was a heal coming out from Enrique, by the way. Even though Alex is there to gobble him up, he still used that heal. So that's a big win for the bot lane of Columbia College. Dean and Evan RL, they have them scared, and now even more so without a heal.
You gotta be careful. I mean, Tom Kench really does buy you a lot of survivability in the lane, but so many players act like it's a get-out-of-jail-free card, and when they have a Tom Kench, they play way too fast, way too loose, lose the trades, expect Tom to just do everything in that lane, and then it all goes topsy-turvy. Obviously, that's not exactly the case here with Enrique and Alex. These two play very well together, and this is a lane that they're both very comfortable with. But if anyone can abuse just that small little bit of security that you feel you get from Tom Kench, Evan and Dean seem to be making a pretty strong argument for it.
Yeah, you have to remember, Evan plays with Tom Kinch quite a bit as well. Obviously, Dean followed back on it in game number 1. We've seen him play Tom Kinch quite a bit throughout the season. They know exactly how to punish it because they've probably been punished themselves before. So, or at least seen gaps in their line of offense/defense. So, yeah, they definitely know strengths and weaknesses of this champion lineup, and they played into it very well. Once again, big summoner spell out for Enrique. That's huge. But other than that, this game has been pretty quiet. Besides Firefly trying to gank on the bot side, he didn't have his boots with Predator. He does now, but I do actually like the adaptation from Firefly. By the way, he knew that last game Evan RL and Dean pushed up so fast, so hard. Wants to try to take advantage of that this time around. Of course, doesn't have any CC to follow up, but it was a nice adaptation.
Maybe seeing an Infernal Drake come down. Yeah, Zach and Julian on this one. Dean can roam up as well just because of Evan's lane positioning. So Evan will be spotted running to this. George Mason should probably be putting together what's happening by this point, but it's too late. They can't do anything. Look where Firefly is. He's actually just hanging out, taking the Gromp on the other side away from Stumpy, and so likely won't even get a gank out of this. And they just effectively traded a Gromp for an Infernal Drake.
I would take that trade any day if I were Columbia College. So big up for them coming into this mid game, because I mean, yeah, Infernal Drake isn't huge early game, but it does scale quite well once you get those items and that percent starts to really take effect. But Dean getting hit up by Alex, not going to be gobbled up this time around. Evan RL, they're just going to go back to farming. And this is something that Enrique has been doing well. He has been farming in the face of Evan RL very well, keeping up with the farm, but there's just so much pressure being applied in other aspects other than just farm that, and CC is bot lane, they just come ahead ever so slightly. And it's, again, same thing that happened last game, same thing that's happened every season, is that the bot lane of CC, slow and steady and methodical, but very calculated and effective.
Well, you take a look at the other parts of the board. We were talking about how good George Mason has been at their farming game throughout and just their laning phase potential in general. Keep in mind that the 2 kills that they gave up earlier at the beginning of the first game, rather, were not necessarily very lane focused. It was in river roams right outside of the mid lane. Their laning phase looks traditionally strong. You take a look at Ion over Misty Stumpy right now. He's actually doing very well in this lane. You have a slight lead for Route as well, and you know he's managing the trade. So it's just the bottom lane where Columbia looked to be so much stronger, and it's only by 9 to the tune of 9 CS right now. That's not anything huge. George Mason actually has a 300 gold lead.
Yeah, that is interesting. As we have a gank in the mid lane, though, that gold lead may disappear if they can get first blood.
Yeah, we'll see if they can get on to Route. He is trying to just play this one pretty safely, keep the information moving, and buy some time for Firefly to make Zach's life a little rough, but the pool going to mean Route gets out of this one okay. Firefly was there on the wings too, so nothing too crazy potentially coming down. They are just going to keep resetting, but it's showing me that if Zach's trying to come in and get the early kills on Route, this may be something that Columbia not taking too lightly.
Very much so, and you were talking about the gold gap right now, going in favor of George Mason ever so slightly. And, you know, gold lead is gold lead, and they don't get too many. They didn't get too many in game number 1. I don't know if they had one at all, but so we're gonna count it here. It's gonna be in that top lane because Misty Stumpy, he's not having the greatest time farming right now. His early game Gangplank doesn't really farm super well. As Route just took a ton of damage for nothing. We have a gank on the bot side.
Yeah, they want to find it. Cannon Barrage has come down. Alex.
He held on to it.
Can potentially get out, but look at the downtown. Enrique using his heal. He's gone all in on surviving and just will not. So 2 kills coming over to Columbia in very stylish fashion. I mean, they came out and just slammed this one down, and now this tower potentially in some trouble. The bot lane, it's where they like to post out for those early game first moves, and no surprises this time.
Yeah, not at all. Usually it's to get the Drake, but they already had that, and they had the engage from Dean still. So that was actually very nice by Zach to hold on. Well, hold on. As I say, hold on. Hold on. We have a gank in the mid lane.
This is going to be the flash in. They're going to find it onto Julian. He's likely in no shape to survive this one, but he does get a slapback kill onto Firefly, and that's not what you want if you are inside of George Mason University here. So, going to set things back just a little bit, and 1 for 1 in the mid lane, giving a kill over to Rise. He's going to be happy with that every single time.
Very much so. And taking the jungler off the map as well, that takes so much pressure off of CC, especially their bot lane if they want to shove up for a few more minutes here, or 4 more seconds, I should say. but that is huge. Whenever you're ganked in the mid lane, ganked in any lane, if you can get a return kill, a 2v1, that is almost automatically a win for that one individual. So very nicely played by Julian, able to get Firefly in that exchange. That was
yeah, the only thing I can think of in terms of the gold switching around is there is at least an assist for the team that brought 2,
right.
But that's so negligible in the grand scheme of things that, yeah, you're right. It always is. It's going to be a huge confidence boost for Julian there, even though he did die. It's going to make sure that he feels really capable in just taking these 1v1s with Route. And even if the tower was brought into it, sure, even if Firefly was tanking too much, doesn't matter. Call the Forge God in the top lane. Not going to mean too much. Trying to get the kill on Stumpy, but Ione, with no mana, won't be able to push that one any further.
Yeah, it was relatively poor timing for that Call of the Forge God, and Zach is actually hanging out in the top side area as well. Going to go invade into Firefly. Firefly's jungle, but yeah, Ione, he may have actually just used that to pick up some minions, actually. We're going to see possibly an engage on the bot side.
Ooh, yeah, well, there's the Tom Kench Devour. Yep. Enrique staying safe this time through. Did take a little bit of damage on the front end, and that's what's really going to stick to him. See now if we see a potential gank here in this mid lane. Could be a 2v2 as Firefly is there to dissuade as well. It does not connect with the Glacial Prison, so this could be actually bad for Zach. Teleport's coming down from both top laners. Stumpy's there first, but Ione had the better ward. This could mean bad news for Julian. Firefly gonna get out of this one just barely. Are you kidding me? And now Julian trying to Realm Warp away, doesn't get it! And Route with the flash makes sure that one comes through. Stumpy on the run should be able to get out of this one okay, but still not what they wanted from the side of Columbia. That was a gank they were gung-ho about pulling off, and both Zach and Julian fall by the wayside for that one. And, you know, much better play in this second game than in the first time around from George Mason here, Fekez.
Yeah, very much so. And that was poor positioning by Columbia College and nicely played. Again, Route, he does have Single Pool, so he has a kind of a get out of jail free card. He also has, well, he had Cleanse. He doesn't have Cleanse anymore. He has Teleport now, but he also has Flash available. So there was a lot to let on the side of George Mason to get themselves out of that they didn't absolutely need because of the poor positioning from Columbia College. Not to mention Zach whiffed his Glacial Prison, so that didn't bode too well for them either. But with that being said, George Mason, yes, they get kills, but the objective is still going over to Columbia College. They're able to pick up the bot lane turret, and now they're going to pick up the Drake. This is the Ocean Drake, unless Firefly has something to say about it, but Dean gonna
I don't think he can steal here.
No, I can't. Oh, is he going in? No, he popped. Okay. Never mind. We have a gank on the top side.
Call the Forge God knocks up Misty Stumpy. Route is there. The Cannon Barrage, such a good, effective anti-gank measure, but Route with the flash in should have it here in just a second. One more shot will do it. And he pulls over the barrel, which means Stumpy is not getting out of this one alive. Route will back. Ione will damage the tower a little bit, and Julian is on the run up. We'll see if he gets there in time.
Yeah, a little bit of... Oh, he's going in there. He's so fast.
Yeah, I mean, just look at that speed. He's got the lockup. The Bellows Breath gonna try to get him out of this one. Alex here with Firefly. We'll see whether that they get Ione out of this one because the shielding is an option, but the Glacial Prison does lock up Firefly. The teleport's coming down through. This is Route coming back to lane. And mission impossible accomplished. They keep Ione alive throughout all that. And a pretty crucial ultimate from Zach as well. So a lot of the engage of Columbia College taken off the table with what they attempted to find there onto Firefly and Ione.
Yeah, very much so. I feel like Columbia College, they are forcing so much here, like they did in the latter half of game number 1. And George Mason, they're playing it cool and collected. They're actually able to take advantage. They're still down in gold because of the turret, because of the first blood. But so far, they've been kind of scouting out the positioning here of Columbia College and taking advantage. So if they can keep this going in the mid game, they may have something going for them. Possibly bring this into a game number 3. This is extremely exciting for them. But Route, he might be in trouble here.
Well, Zach wants to find it. Keep in mind, there is no Glacial Prison this time around. Yeah, you talk about that. This is the manifestation. He's running on wards. There's no bush that in this top side Columbia doesn't have vision of, and it just doesn't matter because of the way they timed it out and the ultimate being missing from Zach now. If just bringing one player doesn't work, hey, let's bring up 2. This is going to be the rotation. Evan RL and Dean are down there. Ione and Stumpy have subverted to the bottom lane where they're just going to look to keep bashing each other on down. All of the pressure currently around the top side for both of these teams. Looks like George Mason have more people here. That's going to be the flash in from Firefly. The suppress coming down. Evan RL trying to get out of this one with the ultimate and actually does a good job, but the curtain call's coming out. Doesn't matter. Interrupted by Zach. The Rift Herald just wants to get a little swings in for the fun of it. No, I'm not on anybody's side. Just tree bearding around, swinging at whatever's convenient.
Yeah, that's again, that was actually initiated by GMU, but that's because they had a target. I don't consider them actually forcing that. They just didn't get the job done. The rotations of Columbia College there, and of course Evan RL, very slippery. Evan RL had to use both his flash, his heal, and his ultimate to get out of that. So let's keep that in mind. That will not be available for the next few minutes. So it might be something that Firefly wants to pull the trigger on once again with that impale. He doesn't have flash to work with, but he might be able to catch him out. And with no flash or a heal on Evan RL, might be able to get killed this time around, or next time I should say, if it happens. But as I say that, Rift Herald being taken up by Columbia College, but they're getting collapsed on, so they need to be careful here.
Evan could roam down from this top side, and Julian there going to be a pretty big deterrent, but yeah, with all George Mason pushing in onto this one, they actually might want to try to find the Rift Herald for themselves. Glacial Prison does not land yet again. It's stolen by Firefly. And if he can pick this one up, this is a totally revitalized GMU. They're looking so much better in this second game. They're keeping up. They're still down at the tower. They're still down. Keep in mind, a couple K in gold there. But man alive, they are playing with such a better definition this time around. And really, here at 16 minutes, keeping Columbia from blowing anything too wide open.
Yeah, I'm very impressed by how well they're playing this. I mean, not taking anything away from George.
Yeah, we shouldn't sound so surprised, right?
Yeah. No, we definitely shouldn't be. Not taking anything away from them, but, you know, it's night and day from game number one. But again, Columbia College, they looked like they were sort of, again, forcing things, maybe even tilting in game number one on that latter half, but they were so far ahead, it didn't matter. This time around, it's actually transferred into this game where they're not so far ahead, and George Mason, they are taking advantage. Now, with that being said, they still need the macro game. They don't have that down. They are getting the team fights in their favor. They're not getting all the kills that they want, but they are getting the summoners, they are getting the offense that they want, and keeping Columbia College on the back foot. But with these objectives going down in favor of Columbia College, it's going to start slipping away from George Mason to where they can't have him on the back foot, where Columbia College, if they make a mistake, they can afford to because of the power swing with these objectives, with these turrets, with this turret goal.
Yeah, we saw it last game. I mean, the turrets really did just open the map up so much for Columbia that there was very little side of George Mason can do, and that was particularly around 4 towers to 0 is when that really, or 4 towers to 1 maybe, when it all started getting a little rough. This time around there is, oh hang on, Call the Forge God coming down. They want to find Evan RL. He's going to jump up at the right time, but look at his health bar. It's not in great shape. Rout's going to find him, and meanwhile they are dragging back Dean into the middle of things. He flashes, but it's all for naught. And look at this, George Mason popping the Rift Herald here in the middle of the lane. Shelly will come out to play, and this tower is going down.
Very much so. Nice pop of that Rift Herald. Nice timing. They had that turret completely gone with the Rift Herald out their back as well. Honestly, I would have almost waited to like to see them wait to use that. Just take that Rift Herald, but they might be trying to cut off Misty Stumpy here as they talk about that.
Yeah, they want to find it.
Not gonna happen.
No. Just gonna back on off. So now we have a Mountain Drake this time around. Columbia did find 3 out of 4 Drakes last game. Didn't get to a 5th Drake potential. It was 2 Oceans and a Mountain for themselves. This time George Mason want to find themselves a Dragon as well. They did squeak out 1. It was a sneak. This time around, if they fight around it, it is going to be a fight indeed. But I don't think that's going to come to fruition just yet. There's still some side wave patrolling the likes of George Mason really need to handle here. They're not as worried about top lane, but yeah, no, they're just backing right off. So after this, if we get the Cloud Drake, it'll be the full sampler pack coming out. And it is another Ocean, actually, so not quite the most diverse range of dragons we could see, but, you know, the game is still young. This is definitely potential for 5 elemental. Is 5 the most you go? Oh, hang on. We're coming in for Zach over the wall. That is going to be the Cannon Barrage as well. It was nicely avoided by Enrique and Alex, and Ione teleporting in wants to maybe turn this fight around. They want to try to get in onto Julian, but Enrique has gone down in the meantime, and while this is going on, Route, their star damage player right now, the 4-0 and 2-1 is not there. And they maybe get a little bit big for their britches this time around from George Mason. We'll see if they can opt to defend the tower now that Route is in the picture, but without Enrique, this should be a nice little point back on the board for Columbia College.
Yeah, Route needs to be in these team fights. He is the big damage source if Enrique goes down, and you see the ultimates up from both Firefly and Route right now. They had a lot of potential there, but Route just could not make it into that fight, and that is a huge difference maker in a game like this where it's so close. And to answer your question, by the way, 3 unique dragons per game.
No, not 3 unique dragons. Just the max number of elementals if you time out everything right before Elder Drake spawns.
Oh, that one's interesting. That one I'm actually.
It's either 5 or 6, and I'm just not remembering right.
Yeah. Either way, they do have the sample pile, like you said. So the next one, will add to that Ocean Drake. They definitely want the Infernal to come up, so they want to be able to take that as fast as possible to be able to get that RNG going and try to get anything that they can, because honestly this game may go into the late game, and the more Drakes you have into the late game when the Elder Dragon spawns, that is going to be huge for you if you can take that, because the more you get, the more true damage you get, and of course that also buffs up the current Drakes you have, and that is something that Columbia College will have the advantage of thus far if they keep up this pace with the objective control, as they do stack up, and you have to plan for that sort of thing. I do want to see George Mason be able to take that a little bit more to the fight at Columbia College whenever they take these Drakes, because they are very important, especially, again, once you get into the late game.
We'll see what George Mason can manage to pull out here. An Ocean Drake even, yeah, would be huge for them. Obviously, right now, the neutral objective on the board is, of course, Mr. Baron Nashor. Something that they need to be incredibly ready to play around. I don't love what I'm seeing here from Route, the one in the bot lane managing the split push. Obviously, he's the one that can go toe-to-toe with Stumpy right now. Stumpy's still even ahead of Ion, but hang on, we have a problem here in the mid lane for George Mason. They're getting engaged on, and Evan RL finds that first kill. Some action coming down to the bot lane as Route does get himself a kill, but this is what I was calling into criticism. He's on the bottom side of the map. He is not with his team. And so, yes, he got that one kill, but this should be more for the side of Columbia. They're trying to go in deep. There's Call of the Forge God coming out. They're going to knock up nobody. Actually, no, it only does find the back line, and Dean does go down. Enrique finds 2 kills on this one, and Columbia, Becca, as you talked about it, they're forcing, and George Mason are forcing right back. The flank coming out from Route here could be huge, especially they're slowing up Evan RL. Did they buy enough time? Route, not in the best of health, but hey, neither is Julian. He has to flash out of this one. And Route's going to flash right back in. Julian going to go down to this one. Ion takes that kill away, and Evan RL slaps back with another. Route does get taken down. It's 4 healthy members of George Mason right around this Baron. Misty Stumpy is finished coming up. They're not going to have enough time. They don't feel comfortable without Route. And that was a mess just across the board.
That was a huge mess, that is for sure. That was Route. Like, yeah, I don't know why Route is in the bot side. He didn't have teleport to work with. And he is the big damage source. We saw once he got in, he when Columbia College started forcing a bit more. Yeah, Route took out Missy Stumpy, but you're still going to lose the tower. And if you start losing towers over these kills, you're going to end up losing the game, because that's where the gold is. Route being